I'll never forget the sound of my own heartbeat when I realized my entire future had been stolen in a single PowerPoint presentation. If you're enjoying this so far, don't forget to like the video and watch till the end. I'd love to hear your thoughts. My name is Emma Clark. I'm 34 years old. I'm worth $3.7 billion. And 5 years ago, I was nobody. This is the story of how I went from invisible engineer to vengeful billionaire by destroying the man who tried to erase me from history. Let me take you back to where it all began. March 15th, 7:30 in the morning. I was sitting in my grey cubicle at Meridian Technologies, sipping cold coffee from a paper cup that had my name spelled wrong. Emma with one M. Even the barista couldn't see me properly. I was 28 then. Fresh out of my master's program at Stanford. Brilliant, they said. Hungry. Too honest for Silicon Valley. I had dreams back then. Big ones. The kind that keep you awake at 3 a.m., coding until your eyes burn and your fingers cramp. I was working on something revolutionary. Something that could change everything. An algorithm. Self-learning. Adaptive. Predictive. I called it Sentinel. Sentinel could predict system failures across any network infrastructure before they happened. Not react to problems. Prevent them. Power grids. Hospitals. Air traffic control. Financial systems. Imagine never having another blackout. Never losing a patient because hospital equipment failed. Never watching the stock market crash because of a technical glitch. That was Sentinel. That was my baby. I'd been working on it for 2 years. Nights. Weekends. Lunch breaks. Every spare moment I had. I documented everything. Every line of code. Every breakthrough. Every failure. Because I knew that someday, when Sentinel was ready, I'd walk into a boardroom and change the world. I just didn't know someone else was planning to do it for me. His name was Daniel Cross. 42 years old. CEO of Meridian Technologies. 6'2". Sharp jaw. Eyes like winter ice. The kind of smile that made you forget to ask the right questions. He wore Tom Ford suits and Swiss watches. He drove a Tesla Model S in midnight black. He lived in a penthouse overlooking the bay. Everything I thought I wanted to be. Daniel had built Meridian from nothing. Or so the story went. Dropped out of Harvard. Started coding in his garage. Built the company into a mid-tier tech firm specializing in AI automation. He was Silicon Valley royalty. The kind of CEO who gave TED Talks and appeared on magazine covers. And he noticed me. At first, I thought it was an accident. I was walking past the executive conference room one Tuesday afternoon when he stepped out. Emma, right? I stopped. Turned. Nearly dropped my laptop. The CEO knew my name. Why yes. That's me. He smiled. Warm. Genuine. Like we were old friends. I've been hearing good things about your work. Really impressive stuff. My cheeks burned. Thank you. I try to contribute. Well, you're doing more than contributing. You're innovating. He stepped closer. I could smell his cologne. Expensive. Confident. I'd love to hear more about what you're working on. Maybe grab coffee sometime? Coffee. With Daniel Cross. With the CEO. Yes. I'd like that. Great. Friday at 10? There's a place called Blue Bottle downtown. Perfect. He walked away, and I stood there in the hallway, heart hammering against my ribs. Daniel Cross wanted to have coffee with me. I spent the next 3 days planning what I'd say. Friday came. I arrived 10 minutes early, wearing my best blazer and the confidence I'd practiced in the mirror. Daniel was already there. Corner table. 2 coffees waiting. Emma. He stood, gave me a quick hug. Professional. Friendly. Thanks for coming. We Saturday. He leaned forward, hands clasped. So tell me. What gets you excited about technology? That's all it took. One question, and I opened up like a book. I told him about Sentinel. About the late nights and the breakthrough moments. About my vision for predictive AI that could save lives and prevent disasters. He listened. Really listened. Asked intelligent questions. Took notes on a legal pad. Emma, this is incredible, he said when I finished. You're talking about something that could revolutionize multiple industries. That's the idea. How far along are you? Pretty far. I've run thousands of simulations. The core algorithm is solid. I just need to refine the deployment protocols. And you've been doing this alone? Mostly. It's my passion project. He nodded slowly. Have you thought about patenting it? I laughed. Honestly, I don't even know where to start with that process. I do. I've filed dozens of patents. It's crucial to protect intellectual property in this space. He reached into his jacket, pulled out a business card. Let me help you with that. Send me your documentation. I'll review it and guide you through the patent process. I took the card. Heavy stock. Embossed lettering. You do that. Emma, talent like yours deserves protection. And recognition. I felt like I was floating as I walked back to my car. Daniel Cross believed in me. Daniel Cross wanted to help me. I was going to be somebody. That night, I compiled everything. Every piece of code. Every test result. Every design document. 18 months of work condensed into a comprehensive portfolio. I sent it to Daniel with a note. Thanks for believing in this. Can't wait to change the world together. He responded within an hour. Emma, this is even better than I thought. Let's meet next week to discuss next steps. The next week became a series of meetings. Daniel called them innovation sessions. Just the two of us in his office. Floor-to-ceiling windows. Leather chairs. The smell of success. He'd ask detailed questions about Sentinel's capabilities. I'd explain the technical specifications. He'd nod and take notes. You know, he said during our third meeting, this is too big for you to handle alone. What do you mean? Bringing something like Sentinel to market requires resources. Infrastructure. A team. Marketing. Legal support. I shifted in my chair. So what are you suggesting? Partnership. Make this a Meridian project. You'd lead the development team, of course. But you'd have the full backing of the company. My pulse quickened. Really? Really? We could fast-track this. Have a prototype ready for investors within 6 months. That sounds incredible. There's just one thing we need to do first. He opened his laptop. We need to move your files to our secure servers. Company policy for any project this sensitive. I hesitated. All of them? Everything. Source code. Documentation. Test results. It's for protection, Emma. Industrial espionage is real in this business. He was right. Of course he was right. Okay. I'll transfer everything tonight. Perfect. He stood. Extended his hand. Welcome to the big leagues, Emma. I shook his hand. His grip was firm. Confident. I was finally going to matter. That night, I uploaded everything to Meridian's servers. Every file. Every backup. Every scrap of data related to Sentinel. I felt like I was handing over my firstborn child. But I trusted Daniel. I trusted the process. I trusted that this was how dreams became reality. The next Monday, I arrived at work early. Excited to start building my team. To see my vision come to life. I tried to access the Sentinel files. Access denied. I tried again. Access denied. My hands started shaking. I called IT. Hi, this is Emma Clark. I'm having trouble accessing some project files. Which files? The Sentinel project. Project folder SC2847. Silence. That folder has been restricted to executive access only. There must be a mistake. It's my project. I'm sorry. I don't have authority to change access permissions. You'll need to speak with management. I hung up. Walked straight to Daniel's office. His assistant tried to stop me. He's in a meeting, I don't care. I pushed past her. Opened his door. Daniel was sitting at his desk. Alone. Looking at a computer screen. My computer screen. My code. He looked up. For just a moment, I saw something in his eyes. Guilt. Then it was gone. Emma. What's wrong? I can't access the Sentinel files. Ah. Yes. I was going to talk to you about that. He closed the laptop. Leaned back in his chair. We're restructuring the project. Restructuring? Bringing in some senior developers. People with experience taking products to market. My stomach dropped. But you said I'd lead the team. You will. In a capacity appropriate to your experience level. My experience level? He sighed. Rubbed his temples like I was giving him a headache. Emma, you're brilliant. But you're also 28 years old with no management experience. Sentinel is potentially worth hundreds of millions. We need seasoned leadership. Seasoned leadership? It's MY algorithm. Which you developed using company resources. During company time. The room started spinning. That's not true. I worked on this at home. On weekends. On my own time. Can you prove that? I opened my mouth. Closed it. He was right. I couldn't prove it. I'd been so focused on the work, I'd never thought to document when and where I'd done it. I thought so. He opened a desk drawer. Pulled out a contract. This is your original employment agreement. Section 12, subsection 4. Any intellectual property developed during your tenure belongs to Meridian Technologies. I felt like I was drowning. Daniel, please. This is my life's work. And it's going to change the world. Isn't that what matters? Under my name. With my credit. He stood. Walked to the window. Looked out at the city. Emma, I'm going to give you some free advice. This industry isn't kind to people who make waves. You can be part of something bigger, or you can be nothing. Your choice. I stared at his back. At his perfect posture. His expensive suit. Who's leading the project? He turned. Smiled that warm, genuine smile. I am. The world stopped. You. I have the experience. The vision. The leadership skills to take Sentinel to market. But it's Meridian's. And I'm Meridian. I felt something die inside me. Something innocent and trusting and hopeful. I trusted you. And I'm going to make us both very rich. You'll get a promotion. A raise. A bonus when we go to market. A bonus. A substantial one. I looked at him. Really looked at him. The sharp jaw. The winter eyes. The smile that made you forget to ask the right questions. I'd asked the wrong questions. All of them. What's my role going forward? Junior developer. You'll support the team. Learn from experienced professionals. It's a great opportunity for growth. Junior developer. Supporting my own creation. Learning from people who'd never even seen the code before last week. And if I refuse? His smile never wavered. Then you're not a good fit for Meridian's culture. I understood. Play along or get fired. I had student loans. Rent. Car payments. I needed this job. Okay. Great. I knew you'd see reason. He sat back down. Opened his laptop. Janet will get you set up with your new team. We start Monday. I walked out of his office on shaking legs. In the span of 10 minutes, I'd gone from future CEO to junior developer on my own project. And there was nothing I could do about it. Or so I thought. The next 3 months were the most humiliating of my life. I sat in meetings where senior developers discussed improvements to my algorithm. Improvements that made it slower, less elegant, less effective. I watched as they renamed variables and functions, removing any trace of my coding style. I listened as Daniel explained his vision for the project to investors and reporters. His vision. His breakthrough. His innovation. I became invisible. People stopped asking for my input. They'd bring me coffee during meetings like I was an intern. They'd explain basic programming concepts to me like I was fresh out of college. Which, Technically, I was. But I'd built the thing they were all trying to understand. The worst part wasn't the humiliation. It was watching them make it worse. Every improvement they made reduced Sentinel's effectiveness. They were so focused on making it marketable, they forgot to keep it revolutionary. I tried to speak up. That modification will increase latency by 40%. Emma, let the senior developers handle the technical details. But I designed the original was a good proof of concept. Now we're building a real product. A real product. Like my 2 years of work had been a hobby project. I stopped speaking up. I did my assignments. Attended my meetings. Smiled when they made jokes about my ambitious ideas. And I planned. Every night, I went home to my studio apartment and rebuilt Sentinel from memory. Line by line. Function by function. I didn't just recreate the original. I improved it. Made it faster. Smarter. More adaptable. I called this version Sentinel 2.0. And I documented everything. Every timestamp. Every revision. Every breakthrough. I saved it all to external drives. Backed it up to secure cloud storage. Printed copies and stored them in a safety deposit box. I wasn't going to be caught unprepared again. 6 months after Daniel stole my life's work, Meridian Technologies announced their revolutionary breakthrough. The press conference was held at the Moscone Center. Red carpet. Media walls. Hundreds of reporters and investors. I watched from my desk on a live stream. Daniel walked onto the stage wearing a charcoal gray suit and a smile that could sell ice to Eskimos. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us today. I'm here to introduce something I've been working on for the past 3 years, a revolutionary AI system that will fundamentally change how we approach predictive maintenance and network security. 3 years. He'd added an extra year to make it seem like he'd been working on it longer than me. I call it Project Vanguard. Vanguard. Not even Sentinel. He'd changed the name. For the next 45 minutes, I watched Daniel Cross present my algorithm to the world. He explained the technical architecture I'd designed. He demonstrated the predictive capabilities I'd programmed. He fielded questions about implementation strategies I'd developed. And he did it all with the confidence of someone who'd actually created it. The audience was captivated. The press was ecstatic. The tech world declared Daniel Cross a visionary. I sat at my desk, watching my future get stolen in real time. The questions started immediately. Mr. Cross, this is incredible. How did you develop such sophisticated predictive algorithms? Well, it started with a simple observation. Current reactive systems are fundamentally flawed. I realized we needed to shift from response to prediction. My observation. My realization. What inspired this breakthrough? I was working late one night, and I had this moment of clarity. What if we could teach machines to anticipate problems instead of just solving them? That was my moment. The exact moment. The night I'd figured out the core algorithmic approach. He'd even stolen my origin story. How long before we see this in the marketplace? We're already in talks with major hospitals, power companies, and transportation networks. I expect full deployment within 18 months. The comments on the livestream were flowing like water. Daniel Cross is a genius. This man is the future of AI. Meridian Technologies just became a must-watch company. Cross for CEO of the Year. I closed my laptop. Walked to the bathroom. Looked at myself in the mirror. 28 years old. Brilliant. Hungry. Invisible. I splashed cold water on my face. When I looked up again, something had changed in my reflection. The innocence was gone. The trust was gone. In their place was something harder. Colder. More dangerous. I walked back to my desk. Opened my laptop. And started researching intellectual property lawyers. The first lawyer I called was a dead end. Employment contracts are pretty airtight these days, he said over the phone. If you developed it during work hours using company resources, it's theirs. What if I can prove I developed it before joining the company? Do you have that proof? I paused. Not exactly. Then you don't have a case. The second lawyer was more encouraging but equally pessimistic. Intellectual property theft is hard to prove, especially against a well-funded corporation with good lawyers. So there's nothing I can do. I didn't say that. I said it would be hard. The third lawyer changed everything. Her name was Catherine Rivers. 53 years old. Sharp suit. Sharper eyes. She specialized in IP theft cases against tech companies. I met her in her office on a rainy Thursday afternoon. Floor-to-ceiling law books. Glass desk. The smell of expensive coffee and righteous anger. Tell me everything, she said. So I did. I told her about Sentinel. About the late nights and the breakthrough moments. About Daniel's innovation sessions and his promises. I told her about the file transfer. The access restrictions. The press conference. I told her about watching my life's work get presented to the world by the man who'd stolen it. She listened without interrupting. Took notes on a yellow legal pad. When I finished, she leaned back in her chair. Do you have any evidence that you developed this algorithm independently? Some. Old emails with timestamps. Personal notes. Early code fragments on my home computer. What about the improved version you mentioned? Sentinel 2.0? I have everything. Complete documentation. Time-stamped development logs. Backup files. All created after I left Meridian. She smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. It was the smile of a predator who'd just spotted prey. Emma, I think we can work with this. Really? Really? Here's what we're going to do. First, you're going to file a patent for Sentinel 2.0. Under your name. With full documentation of your independent development. Will that hold up? If it's truly an improvement on the original, and you can prove you developed it independently, then yes. The patent office doesn't care about employment contracts. My pulse quickened. And then we file suit. Against Meridian. Against Daniel Cross personally. We claim that Vanguard is derivative of your patented technology. Can we win? Catherine leaned forward. Emma, I've been doing this for 20 years. I've seen brilliant people get screwed over by corporate thieves more times than I can count. Most of them don't fight back. They take the settlement and disappear. But you documented everything. You improved on your original work. And most importantly, you're not going away quietly. She opened a desk drawer. Pulled out a contract. I work on contingency. If we win, I take 30%. If we lose, you owe me nothing. And if we win, what am I looking at? Damages. Rights to your technology. Injunctive relief preventing them from using Vanguard. How much in damages? She smiled that predator smile again. How much do you think your life's work is worth? I thought about Daniel on that stage. Taking credit for my innovation. Getting rich off my ideas. Everything. Then let's take everything. I signed the contract with a hand that didn't shake. For the first time in 6 months, I felt like myself again. Filing the patent took 3 months. 3 months of detailed documentation. Technical specifications. Prior art research. Legal filings. Catherine handled the legal side. I handled the technical side. We worked nights and weekends. Her office became my second home. I showed her every line of code. Every algorithm. Every improvement I'd made. This is remarkable, she said, reviewing my documentation. Sentinel 2.0 is significantly more sophisticated than what they demonstrated. I had time to think about the problems with the original. And you solved them. Most of them. The patent was approved on a Tuesday in November. Patent number 11,247,893. Title: Advanced Predictive Algorithm for Real-Time Network Failure Prevention. Inventor: Emma L. Clark. Seeing my name on that official document felt like coming back to life. I was real again. I mattered again. Catherine called me that afternoon. Congratulations, Dr. Clark. I'm not a doctor. You are now. In the eyes of the patent office, you're the world's leading expert on predictive network algorithms. I hung up and cried. Not from sadness. From relief. The next day, we filed the lawsuit. Clark versus Cross and Meridian Technologies Incorporated. We sued for $50 million in damages. Full rights to all iterations of Sentinel technology. And an injunction preventing Meridian from using Vanguard. The press picked up the story within hours. Former Meridian engineer claims CEO stole revolutionary AI algorithm. David versus Goliath, small-town engineer takes on Silicon Valley giant. Did Daniel Cross build his empire on stolen code? My phone started ringing immediately. Reporters. Bloggers. Other engineers who'd been screwed over by their companies. I didn't take any of the calls. Catherine handled the media. Ms. Clark is confident in her case and looks forward to proving her claims in court. Daniel's response was swift and predictable. His lawyers released a statement that afternoon. These allegations are completely baseless. Ms. Clark was a valued employee who contributed to a team effort, but Vanguard was developed under Mr. Cross's direct leadership and vision. We will vigorously defend against this frivolous lawsuit. Frivolous. Team effort. I'd expected that. What I hadn't expected was the personal attacks. Within a week, articles started appearing. Emma Clark, disgruntled employee or rightful inventor. The psychology of workplace grudges, when good employees go bad. Is Emma Clark a victim or a gold digger? Someone had leaked details about my personal life. My student loans. My studio apartment. My dating history. They painted me as a bitter ex-employee who couldn't handle corporate culture. A millennial who thought she deserved credit for everything. A woman who was using the legal system to get revenge on a successful man. It hurt. More than I'd expected. But it also made me angrier. And anger, I was learning, was a powerful motivator. The case took 8 months to get to trial. 8 months of depositions. Discovery. Expert witnesses. Legal maneuvering. Daniel's lawyers tried everything. They claimed I'd signed away all rights to my work. They argued that Vanguard was sufficiently different from my patent to avoid infringement. They brought in character witnesses to testify about my difficult personality and unrealistic expectations. They painted me as a junior developer who'd exaggerated her contributions to a team project. But Catherine was relentless. She deposed every engineer who'd worked on Vanguard. Most of them admitted under oath that they'd been given my original code as a starting point. She brought in forensic computer analysts who traced every file modification. They proved that 87 of Vanguard's core functionality was identical to my original Sentinel algorithm. She subpoenaed Daniel's emails and found a treasure trove of incriminating evidence. Emails where he discussed repositioning Emma's work as a company initiative. Emails where he joked about naive engineers who don't understand business. Emails where he explicitly planned to minimize Emma's role before she realizes the value of what she's created. But the smoking gun came from an unexpected source. One of Daniel's own assistants. Her name was Jennifer Walsh. 26. Fresh out of Berkeley. Idealistic enough to still believe in justice. She approached Catherine through a mutual contact. I have something you need to see. What she had was an email thread. Between Daniel and his head of engineering. Sent 2 days after I transferred my files to the company servers. The subject line was Project Acquisition, Confidential. Daniel's email read, Mike, I've acquired some remarkable technology from one of our junior engineers. The algorithm is revolutionary, could be worth hundreds of millions. The developer doesn't understand the business implications. I want you to assemble a team to productize this immediately. Keep the original developer involved but minimize her role. If we position this correctly, it becomes a cross-Meridian innovation. The kid won't know what hit her. The response from Mike Henderson, head of engineering, understood. How do you want to handle attribution? Daniel, what attribution? As far as anyone knows, this came from my research initiatives. Emma Clark was just part of the implementation team. I read that email in Catherine's office on a Thursday morning. I read it 3 times. Then I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was over. Daniel had documented his own crime. This is it, Catherine said. This is everything we need. Will it hold up in court? Emma, this email is a confession. He admits to stealing your technology and planning to erase your contributions. I felt something settle in my chest. Something that had been wound tight for over a year. Peace. The trial began on a Monday in June. Superior Court of California. Judge Patricia Morrison presiding. 12 jurors. Packed gallery. I wore a navy blue suit and the confidence Catherine had helped me rebuild. Daniel sat at the defendant's table in his signature Tom Ford. Still handsome. Still composed. Still smiling that warm, genuine smile. But when he looked at me, I saw something new in his winter eyes. Fear. Catherine's opening statement was surgical. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, this case is about theft. Not the theft of money or property, but something far more valuable. The theft of innovation. The theft of recognition. The theft of a brilliant young woman's future. She walked them through my story. The late nights. The breakthrough moments. The trust betrayed. Emma Clark created something revolutionary. Daniel Cross stole it. And today, we're going to prove it. Daniel's lawyer, Marcus Webb, painted a different picture. This case is about a disgruntled employee who can't accept that innovation happens in teams. Emma Clark was part of a collaborative effort led by one of Silicon Valley's most respected CEOs. Her contributions were valued and compensated. But she was not the sole inventor of Vanguard technology. The first week was technical testimony. Computer scientists explaining algorithms. Patent attorneys discussing prior art. Forensic analysts presenting their findings. It was dry. Complex. The kind of testimony that makes jurors' eyes glaze over. But the evidence was overwhelming. Every expert confirmed the same basic facts. Vanguard was built on my code. My patent represented genuine innovation beyond the original. The similarities were too extensive to be coincidental. The second week was more dramatic. Catherine called me to testify. I walked to the witness stand on legs that felt steadier than they had in months. The courtroom was silent except for the whisper of air conditioning and the scratch of reporters' pens. Ms. Clark, Catherine began, please tell the jury about the night you created the core algorithm for Sentinel. I looked at the jury. 12 faces watching me intently. It was October 15th, 2 years ago. I'd been working on the problem for months. How do you teach a computer to predict system failures before they happen? I was in my apartment, around 2 a.m., drinking my 4th cup of coffee. I closed my eyes, remembering. I was looking at failure patterns across different network types, and I realized that all systems give warning signs before they fail. Tiny anomalies. Micro delays. Performance fluctuations that human operators miss because they're too small to notice. What was your breakthrough? I realized that you could train an AI to recognize these patterns. Not just in one system, but across all systems. A universal language of impending failure. And you coded this algorithm that night? The core structure, yes. It took 6 more months to refine it, but the fundamental approach was born that night. Did you tell anyone about this breakthrough? Not immediately. I wanted to perfect it first. I didn't tell Daniel about it until 8 months later. 8 months after you'd created it? Yes. Catherine walked me through the entire timeline. My independent development. Daniel's recruitment of my trust. The file transfer. The lockout. The press conference. I told my story simply. Honestly. Without drama or embellishment. Just the facts. When I finished, several jurors were leaning forward in their seats. Daniel's lawyer cross-examined me for 3 hours. He tried to poke holes in my timeline. He questioned my memory of technical details. He suggested I was motivated by jealousy and greed. Ms. Clark, isn't it true that you felt overlooked at Meridian? I felt invisible. There's a difference. You wanted recognition for your work. I wanted credit for my work. Yes. And when you didn't get it, you decided to sue. When my work was stolen and presented as someone else's innovation, I decided to fight back. Fight back. Or get rich. I looked him in the eyes. Mr. Webb, if I'd wanted to get rich, I would have kept quiet and negotiated a better severance package. I filed this lawsuit because theft is wrong. Even when the thief is charming and powerful and everyone likes him. The gallery murmured. Judge Morrison called for quiet. Daniel testified the next day. He was smooth. Confident. Believable. He painted himself as a mentor who tried to help a promising young engineer. Emma had good ideas, he said. Raw talent. But she lacked the experience to turn concepts into products. I tried to guide her development while building something marketable. Did you steal her algorithm? Absolutely not. Vanguard was the result of collaborative development led by my engineering team. Emma contributed, certainly, but she wasn't the sole inventor. What about your emails discussing project acquisition? For the first time, Daniel hesitated. That was poor word choice. I was referring to incorporating Emma's contributions into a larger development initiative. You wrote that Emma won't know what hit her. I meant that she'd be surprised by how successful the project became. It was a good performance. Polished. Practiced. Almost believable. But Catherine destroyed him on cross-examination. Mr. Cross, you testified that Vanguard was a collaborative effort. That's correct. How many people were on this collaborative team when you had your first meeting with Ms. Clark about her algorithm? It was just Emma and myself initially. So it wasn't collaborative when you acquired her technology. We expanded the team later. After you'd taken possession of her files. After we'd incorporated her work into a company project. Catherine walked to the evidence table. Picked up a printed email. Mr. Cross, I'm showing you Exhibit 47. An email you sent to Mike Henderson on March 23. Please read the highlighted portion. Daniel's jaw tightened. I've acquired some remarkable technology from one of our junior engineers. Acquired. Not developed collaboratively. Acquired. Like buying a piece of equipment. That's not what I meant. What did you mean? I meant that we'd gained access to Emma's work through proper company channels. By convincing her to transfer her files to company servers. By following standard IP protocols. Catherine picked up another email. Please read Exhibit 49. Your response when Mr. Henderson asked about attribution. Daniel's face was flushed now. What attribution? As far as anyone knows, this came from my research initiatives. Your research initiatives? Poor word choice again. Mr. Cross, how many poor word choices does it take before we call it intent? Objection. Sustained. But the damage was done. The jury had heard Daniel, in his own words, planning to steal credit for my work. The closing arguments were powerful. Catherine painted a picture of corporate theft and individual courage. Emma Clark trusted Daniel Cross. She believed in collaboration and mentorship and the idea that good work speaks for itself. Daniel Cross exploited that trust. He stole her innovation and tried to erase her from the story. Today, you have the power to set the record straight. Daniel's lawyer made a last-ditch appeal to corporate loyalty and legal technicalities. This case threatens the foundation of employer-employee relationships. If we allow disgruntled workers to claim ownership of collaborative projects, innovation will suffer. Companies won't invest in research and development if they can't protect their investments. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. I spent those 6 hours in a conference room down the hall, drinking bad coffee and staring at legal documents I'd read 100 times. Catherine tried to make small talk. I wasn't in the mood for conversation. At 4:30, we got the call. The jury had reached a verdict. Walking back into that courtroom was the longest walk of my life. Daniel was already seated. His confident smile was gone. He looked pale. Tired. Human. Judge Morrison entered. We all stood. Has the jury reached a verdict? The foreman, A middle-aged man with kind eyes stood. "We have, Your Honor. On the charge of intellectual property theft, how do you find?" "We find for the plaintiff." The courtroom erupted. Reporters scrambled for their phones. Spectators cheered and gasped. Judge Morrison banged her gavel. I sat perfectly still. I'd won. I'd actually won. On the matter of damages, Judge Morrison continued, "How does the jury find?" "We award the plaintiff $75 million in compensatory and punitive damages." $75 million. More than we'd asked for. "And on the matter of injunctive relief?" "We grant full injunctive relief. The defendants must cease all use of the disputed technology and transfer all rights to the plaintiff." I looked across the courtroom at Daniel. He was staring at the table. His shoulders sagged. His lawyer was whispering urgently in his ear. But Daniel wasn't listening. He was broken. And I felt nothing. Not satisfaction. Not revenge. Not even relief. Just emptiness. Like I'd been holding my breath for so long I'd forgotten how to breathe normally. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. "Emma, how does it feel to win? Are you satisfied with the verdict? What's next for you?" Catherine handled the questions. "Ms. Clark is gratified that the jury recognized the truth. Justice has been served." I stood beside her, smiling for the cameras. But inside, I was already planning my next move. Winning the lawsuit was just the beginning. Now I had to build something worth winning. The settlement money hit my account 3 weeks later. $75 million. Minus Catherine's 30% fee. Minus taxes. I was left with $42 million. More money than I'd ever imagined having. Enough money to do anything I wanted. I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted to build the company Daniel should have built. The company that valued innovation over ego. The company that put creators' names on patents. The company that made Sentinel everything it could be. I rented office space in downtown San Francisco. Nothing fancy. Just clean, bright rooms with good Wi-Fi and excellent coffee. I hired my first employee on a Tuesday. Her name was Rachel Kim. 32. MIT graduate. Former Meridian engineer. She'd reached out to me during the trial. "Ms. Clark, I don't know if you remember me, but I worked at Meridian 5 years ago. Daniel did to me what he did to you. I developed a machine learning optimization protocol. He took it. Patented it under his name. When I complained, he fired me." I remembered her. Quiet. Brilliant. The kind of person who gets overlooked in meetings. What happened after Meridian? I bounced around. Smaller companies. Freelance work. I couldn't get a reference from Daniel, so my career stalled. "What are you doing now?" "Teaching coding boot camps. It pays the bills, but it's not what I dreamed of doing with my MIT degree." I offered her a job on the spot. "I can't pay you what you're worth yet, but I can give you equity. And I promise you'll get credit for everything you create." She started the next Monday. My second hire was Marcus Chen. Former CFO of a failed startup. Brilliant with numbers. Terrible at office politics. Perfect for what I needed. "I want to build something different," I told him during his interview. "Something that succeeds because it's better, not because it's louder." "What's the product?" "Sentinel. The real version. Not the watered-down corporate knockoff Daniel built." Marcus leaned forward. "I read about your case. Fascinating technical innovation. But the market for predictive AI is crowded. How do you differentiate?" "By actually working." I showed him Sentinel 2.0, the improved version I'd built during my legal battle. His eyes widened as I walked through the capabilities. "This is remarkable. The prediction accuracy rates are off the charts. That's what happens when you focus on solving problems instead of managing PR. When can we launch?" 6 months. If we work 7 days a week and don't sleep much. Marcus grinned. I haven't slept much in 3 years. When do I start? By the end of my second month, I had 12 employees. All brilliant. all overlooked by bigger companies, all hungry to prove themselves. I called the company Clark Innovations. Simple. Direct. My name on everything. No one would ever question who'd built what. We worked like maniacs. 18-hour days. Weekend coding sessions. Pizza dinners and energy drink breakfasts. But it didn't feel like work. It felt like building something real. Something that mattered. Something that was ours. The first beta version of Sentinel 2.0 was ready in 4 months. We tested it on our own office network first. It predicted a server failure 3 days before it happened. We fixed the problem and watched our uptime statistics improve dramatically. The second test was with a small hospital in Oakland. Sentinel detected anomalies in their patient monitoring system that would have caused a critical failure during surgery. The third test was with a local power company. Sentinel predicted a transformer failure that would have blacked out half of San Jose. Word spread quickly in the tech community. Quietly at first. Engineers talking to other engineers. Then louder. Venture capitalists started calling. I took meetings with 3 firms. The first one offered $10 million for 30% equity. I countered with 5% for $10 million. They laughed. The second firm was more aggressive. $20 million for 40%. I explained that I didn't need their money as much as they needed my technology. They stopped returning my calls. The third firm was different. Wellington Capital. Managed by Sarah Chen, Marcus's former colleague. Emma, I've been following your story. What you've built here is impressive, but more than that, how you've built it is impressive. What do you mean? You're building a company culture that protects creators. That's rare. That's valuable. She offered $15 million for 12% equity. And something else. I want to introduce you to other founders who've been screwed over by corporate theft. Build a network. Share resources. Help each other succeed. I signed with Wellington that week. 6 months later, Clark Innovations had 37 employees and contracts with 12 major clients. Hospitals. Power companies. Transportation networks. Financial institutions. Everyone wanted Sentinel. Not just because it worked, but because it worked better than anything else on the market. Including Vanguard, which, according to industry reports, was struggling with reliability issues. Turns out that when you steal someone's algorithm and then modify it without understanding the underlying principles, you break things. Who could have predicted that? Meridian Technologies was hemorrhaging clients. Their stock price dropped 60% in 6 months. Daniel was fighting for his professional life. I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. But then I remembered sitting in that grey cubicle, watching him present my work to the world. And the sympathy evaporated. The call came on a Thursday evening. I was working late, reviewing product specifications for our next major release. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. But something made me pick up. Hello. Silence. Then a voice I recognized. Quiet. Broken. Barely above a whisper. Emma. Daniel. I should have hung up. I should have blocked the number. But curiosity won. What do you want? A long pause. I wanted to apologize. I laughed. Sharp. Cold. Apologize. Now. I know it's too late. I know I don't deserve forgiveness. But I needed you to hear it from me. Hear what, exactly? That you were right. That I stole your work. That I tried to erase you. His voice cracked. And that I'm sorry. I sat in my office, staring out at the city lights. Why now, Daniel? Because I lost everything. The company. My reputation. My family. I hadn't heard about his family. Sarah left me last month. Took the kids. Said she couldn't be married to a thief. Part of me wanted to feel sympathy. Part of me wanted to twist the knife. But mostly, I just felt tired. I'm sorry about your family. Are you? I thought about it. Actually, yes. I never wanted to hurt innocent people. They're not innocent. They benefited from what I stole from you. He was right. But his kids hadn't chosen to benefit from theft. They'd just been along for the ride. What happens to Meridian? Bankruptcy. We'll be closed by Christmas. And you? A bitter laugh. I'm moving to Montana. My brother has a hardware store. Needs help with inventory management. From Silicon Valley CEO to hardware store clerk. It was almost poetic. Daniel. Yeah. Don't call me again. I hung up. And felt nothing. His apology didn't change anything. It didn't undo the theft. It didn't restore the months of humiliation. It didn't give me back the naive trust I'd lost. But it did close a chapter. The Daniel Cross chapter was over. Now I could focus on the Emma Clark chapter. And that chapter was just beginning. Clark Innovations went public 18 months later. The IPO was one of the most successful tech launches of the year. We raised $400 million. The company was valued at $2.3 billion. My personal stake was worth $1.4 billion. Overnight, I went from millionaire to billionaire. I rang the opening bell at the New York Stock Exchange on a crisp October morning. Standing there in my navy blue suit, looking out at the trading floor, I thought about that cold Tuesday morning 3 years earlier. The morning I'd realized my future had been stolen. The morning everything fell apart. And the morning I decided to build something better. The reporters shouted questions as I walked down the steps. Emma, how does it feel to be a billionaire? What's your advice for other entrepreneurs? Do you have any regrets about the lawsuit? I stopped. Turned to face the cameras. Regrets? No. I regret trusting someone who didn't deserve it. But fighting back. Building this company? That's the best decision I ever made. What's next for Clark Innovations? We're just getting started. We're expanding into new markets. Developing new technologies. And we're hiring brilliant people who've been overlooked by other companies. Any message for Daniel Cross? I paused. Thought about him in his hardware store in Montana. Thought about the man who tried to steal my dreams. I hope he's learned something. But honestly, I don't think about him anymore. I'm too busy building the future. That evening, Sarah Chen threw a celebration party at her penthouse. Clark Innovations employees. Wellington Capital Partners. Industry leaders who'd become allies. I stood on the balcony, champagne glass in hand, looking out at San Francisco Bay. Rachel Kim joined me. Penny, for your thoughts. Just thinking about how we got here. Any second thoughts? I shook my head. None. This feels right. What feels right? Building something that matters. With people who matter. Putting our names on our work. Rachel raised her glass. To putting our names on our work. I clinked my glass against hers. To never being invisible again. We drank. And I realized something. Revenge wasn't about destroying Daniel Cross. Revenge was about becoming everything he'd pretended to be. A real innovator. A genuine leader. Someone who created instead of stole. Someone who elevated others instead of erasing them. Someone who earned success instead of stealing it. I'd become everything Daniel had pretended to be. And he'd become nothing. That was justice. That was victory. That was enough. But the story doesn't end there. Because success, real success, isn't about reaching the top. It's about what you do once you get there. 6 months after the IPO, I established the Clark Foundation. A non-profit dedicated to protecting intellectual property rights for individual inventors and small companies. We provide legal support for engineers and designers who've been screwed over by corporate theft. We offer grants for independent research. We lobby for stronger IP protection laws. And we tell stories. Stories like mine. Stories that show people they don't have to accept theft and erasure. Stories that inspire people to fight back. The first case we took was Jennifer Walsh, the assistant who'd leaked Daniel's incriminating emails. Turns out she was also an inventor. She'd developed a revolutionary battery technology while working at a clean energy startup. Her CEO had stolen it, patented it, and fired her when she complained. Sound familiar? The Clark Foundation funded her lawsuit. We won $50 million in damages. Full rights to her technology. Jennifer used the money to start her own company. They're revolutionizing electric vehicle batteries.